All right. Hello everyone. This is in Inner Leadership by Akhila Shastry. Today we have with us Sai Kiran, who is the founder of Wildlife Whisperers. So, getting directly into it, Kiran, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you think and start about Wildlife Whisperers?
First of all, thank you so much, Akhila, for inviting me to this talk. Yeah, so Wildlife Whisperers, not much of a dramatic story, I would say. It's a uh, my childhood was all amidst greens. I was I was living in a suburb outside Hyderabad where my dad is a central government employee, so you have those quarters and all amidst greens and all. So all my childhood was among in nature, in untamed nature, and being a part of a school which also talks and promotes about nature. Like one-fifth of our school is just the college school premises. Rest of the school is all greenery. You have probably a 70, 80-year old banyan trees, two banyan trees standing there. So the entire setup where I've grown up was all about nature. So there's no escape for me rather than getting immersed into nature. So as I say, even before I clicked nature, nature clicked with me. So that's how the entire story started. And then slowly I have taken, though my career started in technology with a lot of working on systems, working on deadlines, you know how an engineer's life would be. There was enough of burnout, but thankfully most of the weekends was again going back into nature. So I was able to, you know, sense that feel of trying to take a pause, trying to give myself a break from the routine of those hustles and deadlines. And nature has been that platform for me. Then later I moved to the US where I did my master's in data science, and then I started reading about behavioral science, understanding human behaviors, understanding behaviors using patterns and all. And nature was always there. So all my weekends there was just trying to keep a checkbook, cover all most of the national parks possible. So in the 5 years of short time that I was there in the US, I was able to cover 49 states. I didn't cover one, and all the national parks in these 49 states. So it was for me, it was all about going away from the skyline. Though I was working in Manhattan, it was not visiting another city. So going away from skyline has always been one, I would say, very encouraging thing if I look back and see that I've done. And all during the course of my career, what I've realized is after every break in nature, and not just with photography. I've been a photographer, but photography has just been a tool that helped me become an observer in the wild. So, understanding nature, understanding wildlife helped me not just be a better professional and also be a better individual in a family. So, I said, why can't we actually look at this as a model that can change the way the people are today? Because the burnouts have increased. We have digital fatigue that we actually suffer from every generation that is currently there. So why can't we build few immersive programs where nature is not just a backdrop, but nature actually takes the center stage and be a classroom for people to learn something. So that's how Wildlife Whisperer started.
Think that because your childhood was shaped with nature, you were around nature, and even in US, right, a lot of people say on a weekend or so they would like to stay in their rooms or they would go to a tourism spot, so to say, a particular restaurant which is very famous or a cafe which is very famous, versus you going and visiting a lot of wildlife. Do you think that changed, that affects on how you think or how you view your work as well?
Absolutely. I mean, as I said, we live in a digital world these days. So wherever we go, we carry a digital world along with us. Thanks to the cell phones that we have our work going with us, we have a personal life going with us. We also have a persona that we have created on in the digital world for others also going with us. So we have become so inward that we stop being outward. You know, not many times you see people going back into the jungles or just nature. It need not be a jungle. A jungle
Yeah.
probably is a very sometimes a term where people think it is all dangerous. There are animals around, but let's call it nature for now. So going back into nature just with a book to read or a book to write, just to put your thoughts. If not anything, just go there, take a pause from your digital life, sit there. Hasn't been happening much. So I definitely, I mean, if I look back and see, I will appreciate my childhood where I was given enough opportunity to go back into nature, to stay connected with nature no matter what. And that helped me do the same thing, practice the same thing, because going back into nature, I have seen a lot of advantages. As I said, as an individual, someone who can stay calm, someone who can stay grounded, someone who knows how to interact with people of different personalities, grounding down myself and keeping myself calm, having the concentration. Again, you're going into a place which has the purest form of air. Your brain starts working better, right? So that's that's how it started, and that has been the core concept of why Wildlife Whispers also started. Like, we want people to take that break. What do you do taking that break? Go into jungles and learn from the classroom, which is the most ancient, the oldest classroom humans have ever experienced. Yeah.
I also think, Kiran, that when people talk about burnout, they take a break after they have burnt out. Versus, I think you going every week and checking out different natural areas, it never led to a burnout because you were having adequate breaks and you were having a different viewpoints at the same time.
Absolutely. Because, and one more thing, every time you go into a different setup, a change of place,
Yes.
and when the change of place is less chaotic and more calm than the place you actually live in,
Hmm.
it makes you grounded. As I said,
Yes.
it improves concentration, it
Hmm.
changes your perspective. So every
Right.
time I come back to my office,
Hmm.
I am a new person, I'm an evolved person,
Yes.
right? So
So, could you tell us how did Wildlife Whisperers start? Like, when I'm pretty sure when you came back to India, you would have seen similar problems over here, and that too, I think with our work life, we would spend more time on the laptop. So, could you take us through your journey around it?
so so the first part I leave it. I'll not come back to how it started during my childhood and photography and everything.
Hmm.
I'll probably tell you from the time I came back to India. The time I came back to India, after few months, COVID started, and being in a family with a wide breadth of generations. I live in a joint family. I have literally seen people not able to cope up staying at home, staying by themselves,
Right.
because our brains have got accustomed to being so busy that keeping it calm, keeping it literally jobless for 5 to 10 minutes. By jobless, I mean, don't not in a very lazy term, but in a very casual term of just taking a pause from whatever you're doing, has become a challenge. Surprisingly, I was absolutely fine. So and the my placement of the house has a lot of greenery around. So all I was doing early in the morning, go onto the terrace, start observing birds, try, try recording these songbirds, look at some animals. All these birds and animals were coming back,
Right.
right? So looking at those birds, making a record of these birds, taking some pictures, writing, has all the practice has been the same. I didn't experience the fatigue which my family has experienced. Then I said, the intention has always been there to start something that is related to nature.
Right.
And the lessons, as I said, I have been learning myself. I've been observing that there is a significant change in the way. I speak, I interact with people versus the way I used to before going into nature. Then I said, why can't we actually think of a program? Because I see similar issue when I called up my friends, when I talk to my colleagues, I see a similar burnout, the urge to get out of a place, because they're not able to, need a change of place, need they don't want, though they don't want to have skip from the digital world, they actually want to get out of that four walls. It has happened for 2 years. Then I said, probably this is something that we have to work on. And during that time I was working in IT, and I was able to document the uh, case studies or the challenges a leadership team or a general corporate team would face. So what problems do they come up with? How can we find solutions for these in nature? So we started with leadership from wild, trying to show people what different types of leaderships are there in nature, in the animals. We started there. Then we built upon something beautiful called biomimicry, where we speak about processes, products, and ecosystems that were built, inspired from nature. Because the first fire the human has ever discovered, the first flight that human has ever got inspired from, everything comes from nature. The wheel, which is the which is probably the most vital invention human has done, which led to industrial revolution, everything, whatever, till AI, whatever we have seen till now, the
Yes.
the initial thing started from wheel. So everything, the blueprints are in nature. We have looked at it, we observed it, we came back, we started building these things. So that's how biomimicry started. Then we were doing parallelly, we were trying to reach out to corporates where we start doing these programs, and slowly we started building a coursework. Now we have a wonderful set of workshops which a leader, a CEO of a company can attend, and also a new college grad, a recent grad can also join, so that both have different set of experiences, both take different types of takeaways, but at the same time the backdrop, the platform is nature. You learn from nature, you go back.
And I think it is also different from the general outings that employees have, right? Where
Yes,
people would just go into a resort or something, have a couple of leadership talks, and maybe, eat together and then spend some time and come back. But your way, I think it changes the mind shift from just behaving or having their guards up to letting down their guards to be able
absolutely.
to interact in a very different way.
Absolutely. I mean, the minute you take their Wi-Fi off, you take their digital presence off, you
Hmm.
take their office emails off.
Hmm.
Okay, the people are left to their raw way of being. And that is when they start interacting not at a deadlines perspective,
Hmm.
they start interacting at a personalities perspective. So you
Yes.
start talking to people, not to colleagues or employees of an organization. And
Hmm.
that's where empathy comes into picture. You start behaving like uh, individuals, not just resumes running around. So so that change of place, going into nature, getting that disconnect is something absolutely important.
Have you seen any anecdotal examples of people who are in the senior leadership change over 6 months, 7 months after they have attended your program?
In fact, I would say we have seen some significant changes during the workshop.
Okay.
So we did a workshop for a FMCG giant. This is a group of sales and marketing people who came with us, and it's not just they did not come with their backpacks. They actually came with their issue of trust.
Right.
Like teams that do not trust them, that do not trust each other.
Right.
And now, during the immersive program, entire program was again uh, properly designed in such a way that the team starts interacting with themselves at a personal level. You know, there is, as you said, this is not that regular outbound workshop or an outbound offsite where you take people into a conference room in a nature setup and then do a workshop. We are not doing that. So the simulations, the role plays, the activities that we have built across made sure that they actually encounter the problem. They they come head on with the problem, and then they encounter it as a team, you know. And by the end of the workshop, we were able to see the interactions changed. It is no more pointing fingers. It is starting to believe that everyone works for a vision the company has. Everyone starts interacting at a level that, it's not just about a team. Even at a personal front, they have become more of friends.
Right.
Yeah. So we see that change. We see, and even when we interact with them, when they come back, probably we get a call. Someone writes to us saying that I feel a burnout now. I want to take a break. Go into one green patch which is closer to our city. If someone is from Delhi, probably they say, I am going into the Aravali's. Or someone in the Bangalore, they say, I am going to Nilgiris or Kabini. That is something that we love to hear from people.
So while building Wildlife Whisperers, what was the main toughest challenge according to you? I mean, it could be around logistics, investors, or getting people into the jungle. Like, what was the main toughest challenge?
The first thing is the entire idea of wildlife whisperers sounded crazy to few
Hmm.
people when the entire world is actually running towards technology, building new
Right.
technologies. You're building an anti-technology company, right? So, so the questions initial at the initial stages are, and I was reaching out to my friends who were in the corporate when I speak to them about what I wanted to start. These most of them are my either my classmates in the US or my ex-colleagues in India with whom I've worked. The first question they asked is, why would a CEO come into a jungle? Why would a CEO come into the jungle? What the second question is, what is different? There are people who do hikes, there are people who go for marathons. How is it different? You're asking people to get out of the boardroom, out of their rooms
Yeah.
into nature. How is it different? How is it different from doing a hike? Or how is it different from going on a marathon? So to address the first question, I said, come by. I invite you guys. And let me take this problem again. Let me take this challenge head on and try to answer it. Let me let when the next time I am going into the jungle, I'll probably take you along with me. Ah, then when they saw it, so it is not about just going into the jungle and look at an animal and come back. So it's not just a safari, or it's not just a nature walk that you do. Start explaining them why an ecosystem lives like this. For example, a spider has been living on the planet for 450 million years. And how is it able to build its strategies? How is
Right.
it able to build its web in the first place? Forget about all these things. How many of engineers can actually draw concentric circles like a spider would do, without a tool, without engineering as a course that it has to go through? So all these things are quite fascinating. So it was never about taking people into jungle to click some pictures of animals and come back, but have some immersive personal discussions with them to make them realize that we have come from a place, we just have to get connected to our roots, that is nature, so that we start discovering new realms of our own
Yes.
personalities. So the first question was answered, and now the second question was making sure that people knew what wildlife whisperers is. So during our pitches, when we talk to people, when people address wildlife whisperers as an outbound company, or so it's very easy, because we stay in a quite a niche area in between event management, tourism, and wildlife tourism and learning and development. It's very easy for someone to actually place us in either of these three circles. We actually do not belong to any one of them. We
Right.
sit in a very small place in between all of these called experiential learning.
Yeah.
So it was never about achieving something. It's not about dopamine and adrenaline, to put in a very scientific way. We are talking about reflection. We are talking about people reflecting about themselves. It's not about achieving something, again going into nature or stepping out of their rooms. So this is not an adventure seeking uh, journey or a workshop, or this is more of a reflective journey, right? Answering that, trying to make sure that we stand by that, has been the greatest challenge, I would say. Because,
Because
yeah,
there might be this time when it gets commercialized and the same root learning that you want to give goes away. So to maintain that is, I believe, is one of the toughest challenge.
yes, because see, there have been I have been a part of outbound programs when I was in the corporate, where it is all about going to a
Yes.
resort generally in the outskirts or somewhere nearer to the jungles or in a wonderful nature setup, and then have a party,
Hmm.
go socialize with your teams, and then come back. Probably have a leadership talk over there, and then come back. What we have realized is nature should not just be a backdrop. Nature should actually be your classroom. Nature should actually be a mirror that shows your reflection and says that, okay, this is how the nature has always been exhibiting leadership, exhibiting trust, exhibiting design thinking. How can you become a better individual looking at these? So that's the challenging part, and that's been a fun ride also, I would say, because the entire team at Wildlife Express come with the same motive of connecting the corporate world to the natural world. So everyone believes in that statement, and everyone has experienced nature in the truest form of being a teacher.
I mean, I completely agree with you on this. So, I grew up in a township in Jamnagar, which is
Oh,
like almost an arid zone. Uh, but the fact that in the township that we lived in, there was so much of greenery. So there was a pomegranate tree outside my
wow.
home. So every time that I used to study and look up outside my window, the tree was the one that held me back during times. So I mean, it is from, it's not something that will show has a big spotlight, but I realized it is a consistent light across for me.
Absolutely. Yes.
It could be like me observing, say, the hummingbird making a nest on a day-to-day basis. And by the end of my exams, I see that the hummingbird's babies, those chicks have grown out of their eggs, flown away, and everything. So, small things like this, I think that was interwoven with my studies throughout the time.
See, each one of us are connected to nature in some or the other way.
Yeah.
For someone, it is just having their first coffee or first tea, north versus south, at any place, having their breakfast for that matter, in a lawn.
Yeah.
Just sit in a lawn, take your newspaper along with you, sit in a
Yes.
lawn and just stay there for some time. For some people, meditate, going into nature.
Mm.
So we wanted to bring all these together. And more than all this, for what corporate needs is to look at institutions which are more established, which are more optimized, and which have sustained for a long period of time. And what can be better than nature as an ecosystem, if you look at it?
How do you see wildlife whisperers growing ahead, like maybe 10 years down the lane, 15 years down the lane?
So for
And
us,
just to ask you further, is because we already have, if I'm not wrong, around 11% of our working population into remote working.
yes,
And that will grow with time with automation, AI into picture, which means people will become more secluded and stuck inside their own homes. So, you know, uh, especially organizations like yours will add a lot of value into their experience.
Yes, what you said is absolutely right. And see, for us, scaling up is something that is very important
Yep.
because we see a lot of demand on the way we are growing and the way the corporate world is actually appreciating the fact that there's a entirely new concept of going into nature and learning from nature.
Mhm.
So scaling up is something very important, but here we have to realize that scaling up is not just about growing as a team,
Mhm.
right? It's not about trying to cater many people.
Right.
It doesn't mean filling buses for us. For us, it means finding new ways to deepen the impact,
Very well said. Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It is definitely not about making sure that every other company comes to Wildlife Express. Though the groups are small and the setting is raw, but the experience has always been unique for them. So for us, scaling is definitely not filling up buses. It is finding new ways to create impact and creating impact at different levels. We initially started with what do you say, corporates. We have programs we do for schools. We are doing programs for universities also. Someone who's getting corporate ready.
Right.
So someone who wants to, who's enthusiastic to learn uh, better ways of coding, how companies function,
Right.
even before they step into corporate, should also learn how people dynamics work, how trust can be built in teams, how why should I actually work in a team when I can do everything on by myself, right? So all these are the questions where people should reflect, realize, and understand. So these are the deeper impacts, and at the same time we are also trying to cater to groups where it's not just uh, uh, you bring in a group, we curate the entire experience for you, take you into the jungles. So as I said, it is not about reaching out to make greater teams, definitely reaching out to companies which appreciate the fact that nature would be a great classroom. But at the same time, for us, scaling means finding newer ways to deepen the impact in the society. End of the day, if an individual, a corporate, or a regular person or a normal person in a family observes a burnout and probably wants to take a breath of fresh air and walks into nature, stays some time, comes back, that's a success for us. So that intimacy with nature is the essence. If that's lost, the whole point is lost. So for us, keeping that intact is very, very crucial as a team as we start scaling up.
Yes. In this entire journey of yours, could you maybe tell us a couple of key learnings that you yourself have learned? Because as you grew the initiative, I believe you yourself would have also changed over time.
Absolutely. So I tell you, the greatest lesson I've learned is to say no. I would
Okay.
say no when people think that Wildlife Express is a touring company,
Mhm.
and I am no when people address me as someone who is doing a wildlife photography tours. So just to break the myth and make sure that though it is not a comfortable conversation to begin with, a no, when people probably think Wildlife Express is a touring company, I immediately stop them and say it is not a touring company. It's an experiential learning company. There's a difference. And then come up, build the conversation across the experience. That's one thing that I've learned. The second thing that I've learned is bringing up a company as a corp. I mean, having a thought of Wildlife Express, having a mission is all good. But when you try to start a company across this, you need to build templates. You need to build templates to cater to wide breadth of audience. I can't just take one workshop and do it, run that forever. I need to make sure that everyone is at rest. That's how I increase the, as I said, I deepen the impact. So when a company or an idea is mission driven rather than revenue driven or number driven, im, im, the impact is something that is given more importance. So, and making sure that this is not a very short term thing that we're doing. This is for long term. Understanding that bringing in trust into the corporate world would take some time. You pitch today, you might not immediately get someone on board. It might take some time based on their calendars, based on their interactions. And what we have as a team at Wildlife Whispers have realized that most of the people that we have reached out to love the concept. So someday, when uh, all the workshops that we have done also did not happen immediately, they go back, they discuss about this with their leaders, and most of the times leaders are someone who have some or the other connection with nature, have an outdoor being an outdoor person, trying to go around with the family, appreciating nature to an extent. These are all wise people. So they come back and say, okay, this is something that we have to do, probably plan it in the next calendar year. So that's how we have stayed on top of mind of most of the people that we interacted with. But staying on top of mind again has been something that I realized that is very vital. So talking to people, interacting with them, reaching out to more than a pitch, right? This is a personal journey that everyone at Wildlife Express has actually gone through. We have all transformed ourselves as individuals, as professionals. So we have team which has HRs, we have team which has learning and development consultants, we have brand managers, we have I am a data scientist before I actually started this. So each of us had our own transformational journey. So the pitch, we don't call it a pitch deck because this is a journey that we individually have gone through, and now we reflect it on a slide deck.
Yeah.
So bringing that passion out, but at the same time controlling passion is something that I've learned. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the fact that one is that you being able to say no, I think that is very important because at least in the initial stage, a lot of initiatives they want to say as many yes and get more number of people. But because of you saying no, I think you can say no also because you're focusing on the mission of the entire initiative. If it was just profit driven or number driven, so to say, then somewhere it would also have been vague, or somewhere it would get diluted over a period of time.
Right.
So I think that makes sense. And also, because you can also say no, take setbacks, because your vision is what will motivate you over a period of time and not the numbers.
I mean, numbers and revenue charts are exciting if you start a
Yes.
company on your own, but it doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
For us, the first thing that comes into our mind is how many people have we transformed, how many individuals are can actually step into wild by themselves. Like there was
Hmm.
a 6-year old, just to give you an example, there was a family that has come into the wild.
Hmm.
When the tour has started, this was in central India. When the
Hmm.
tour has started, this kid, 6 year 7-year old kid, as usual, was glued to his phone, trying to scroll around reels, the doom scrolling part.
Yeah.
And uh, you see that unrest in the parents' face also, that okay, after spending this amount, I still see my kid scrolling when
Hmm.
we are able to enjoy in the nature. But during the trip, when we were there are bonfire conversations that we do with our uh, participants.
Hmm.
We literally sit around the bonfire, the fire in the forest, and narrate stories,
Right.
talk about perspectives of what they have seen in the jungle.
Hmm.
Like if there is a hunt that goes on, what did you observe during the hunt, rather than just focusing on probably did you get a picture or not. We focus on the entire process. What have you seen?
Hmm.
What was the animal behaving like? Is there is there any animal giving an alarm call when they saw a tiger? If yes, how many were alert? So you're trying to be aware of your surroundings, and that's something every individual needs today.
Right.
And 2 days after the trip, we head back home. Then I get a call from his dad saying that, Sai, thank you so much for this trip, because my son no more sits with the phone. He has taken my telescope, pointed outside to a nearby lake, look at the birds there, try to make notes of it, and he has some questions. He took pictures from mobile phone because he doesn't carry a phone.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a camera. So he wants to send these pictures to you. Can you please identify, take your time out, identify the birds and send it back to him so that he'll make a list of what all birds he has seen at the house. So see, this is a success for us. So
Yes.
this will not be reflected on a chart,
Yes.
I would say. We make money from tours. We do these experiential tours. We it's there's something much beyond those revenue charts. There's those numbers. These
Hmm.
experiences are our successes.
Yes.
Like someday a CEO comes back or a leader comes back and says, I felt burned out, so I took a break. I went into the jungle. I came back.
Hmm.
Now I feel better. Or we still remember the lessons that we have seen in the jungle when
Hmm.
we were there, and they still resonate when we try to build our teams, when we try to interact with our team members. So these are our successes, I would say.
Hmm. I wanted to understand this from you that in your entire journey, do you see yourself as a healer, a leader, or an observer, or maybe a mix of it?
I would say, yeah, I started as an observer.
Mm-hmm.
I started as an observer,
Hmm.
as small as a 5-year-old kid who was just trying to look at, as you said, the birds going around, making their nest, the chicklings coming out, enjoying that process, trying to connect to that as an observer, as a photographer also. The lens never stopped me being an observer, and that's how I click my pictures. My pictures, I feel, are connected to me, connected to my soul in terms of the way I convey those stories. So it started as an observer. It transformed into a leader when I was in the corporate. A healer, probably for myself. A healer is not a buzzword that I would use here, but definitely a combination of all these three. A healer for myself. Even now, when I have my schedule going on, I see nature as a place where I can go. Nature being the healer, I'm just being a moderator there. So I am a combination of all the three now, but given a preference, I've always been an observer because that has taught me a lot about nature.
Um, since our entire podcast is around inner leadership, right? What is your leadership style with your team? And how has it changed over years?
See, again, leadership style, I would say, is more of a situational thing. You can't be the same leader across situations. If there are situations where you have to micromanage your team, where you have to go close and try to work along with them, make your hands dirty, you have to do that. And there are situations where you are supposed to be a host leader, where your team is enough skilled, they know everything about it, it can run autopilot. All you have to do is start empowering them, make them feel they are leaders also, so that they work, they there is nothing redundant anymore, so that innovation takes the front seat in the products that you build. Sometimes you just have to be someone way too social, so that you start interacting with the youngest in the team. And guess what, these are all different styles of leadership that I've learned from animals again. So for me, I see myself putting, giving that placement the right way after my interaction with nature or my interaction in the wild. Earlier, I knew a situation that I have to be a host leader, but I turn out to be someone who micromanages things, because you come from, you in the corporate, you have these leadership workshops that that you have gone through, you listen to these types of models of leadership. Somewhere in your subconscious mind, you know that in this situation, this is how you have to be. But you will not be able to be there because were not connected to it. You're giving a living, looking at a living example of how these happen, help me understand where I have to place myself as what type of leader. So that is the transformation, I would say. Always had the knowledge of how leaders should be, but never had that why I should be this leader at this moment. Unless I was shown that connect, and nature has been that platform for me. When you look at the leadership in nature, leadership in the wild, and you come back and you say, when when an elephant can do it, when a wolf can do it, and all these animals, even without verbal communication, most of non-verbal communication, no language, 7,000 languages on planet, and we still do not fail from misunderstanding each other, whereas the animals can probably understand themselves much better, right? So that's been bringing in bringing in the storytelling part. When you try to explain the purpose to your team, or your team's purpose to someone else, bringing in that storytelling part, giving someone an opportunity to show their strength rather than focusing on their weaknesses. All these are the transformations that I see in myself during my corporate journey. Again, due to the breaks that I've taken, going back into wild, trying to reach out to people, reading more about nature, understanding how nature operates. And now I see that uh, that can be imparted across organizations in the corporate world.
Thank you so much for your time, Sai Kiran. Um, there are one thing which really stood out to me is that with the entire experience that you have shared, right? And also keeping in mind that the digital era that we live in, there's a lot of information that we get bombarded by.
Right.
Through our conversation, what I realized is your vision, and also the maybe the way we can conduct our life is to give that moment of stillness, so
Yes.
that whatever is our inner voice, we can allow that to be spoken, to allow that to grow as well.
To be heard, probably. Yeah.
Yes, that to be heard.
Yes.
Because I think we just listen to a lot of influential gurus, we listen to a lot of random quotes that are there on Instagram, and we are just stuck in those certain echo chambers as well. So, if we allow ourselves to take a step back and just listen to ourselves, who we are authentically, I think that itself will start creating a difference.
Absolutely. Very well said, Akhila.
Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, I hope the listeners also enjoy the
Thank you.
conversation.
Thank you for the opportunity. And probably we'll see you in jungle sometime soon.
Yes.